Hey there nation, welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander CheapSkate. As you can see, we are back with another edition, this time for a Came From the Sump limited mini-series that we're doing on our channel. It is a series of Necromunda battle reports that is of the It Came From the Sump campaign rules. For those of you guys who may be unfamiliar with how those rule systems work, it's pretty simple, ladies and gentlemen. The idea behind It Came From the Sump was to make B-movie kind of horror stories for Necromunda. The idea was supposed to be that different gangs would fight through the Underhive, fighting against different monsters and things of that nature, and try to survive against monsters that are coming up from the sump. A couple of years ago, we did one for the Tales from the Underhive using the old classic Necromunda rules set, and now we're making a brand new narrative campaign for Necromunda. It Came From the Sump 2, and this one's gonna be a little bit different because unlike last time when I ran a It Came From the Sump campaign, I just ran the different gangs that we were using at our campaign at the time in order to do that series of battle reports. This time though, this is a narrative campaign, and as you can see here, we have our main cast of characters that we have for that campaign. So the purpose of this video, of course, is to talk about the different characters and the rule sets that we created. I've actually kind of made a little miniature game using different aspects of Kill Team, Necromunda, as well as Warhammer 40,000 8th edition rules, kind of compiled and cobbled them together to kind of make a brand new gaming system for our narrative campaign. My friends and I are really excited doing this system for our narrative campaign because it's very much based off of the Netflix series Stranger Things. We're huge fans of that show, and we kind of combined a little bit of Stranger Things, some of the aspects of that show, with a little bit of our Necromunda campaign to make It Came From the Sump. So as you can see here, we have our full cast of characters right here that we have for the campaign. As you can see, we have in the middle Gregor Eisenhorn. He's a Inquisitor special character from the Warhammer 40,000 universe. He's got a bunch of novels dedicated to this character. They're really good. They're written by, I believe the author's name is Dan Abnett is his name. Does a really good job writing about that character. So he's the main character of the campaign, and of course he has side characters from the Underhive of Necromunda. Just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what the scenario of the campaign will be about, it's about Gregor Eisenhorn, this guy here, going to Necromunda to carry out a mission for the Inquisition. Needless to say, things do not go well in the Underhive, and he's forced to work with gangers as well as BD's enforcers and the scummers and bounty hunters and Raskin renegades. He's got to work with the denizens of the Underhive of Necromunda to fight against what is a huge, potentially huge threat for the Imperium, and that's what the campaign is. And as you can see here, and also too, I have a little, you can kind of see it's kind of blurry, but I have a whole set of rules. We're going to talk about those real quick as well, and talk about exactly what each of the characters are capable of. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get this video on a roll and introduce you to all the characters. Alright, the very first character we're going to start off with is Gregor Eisenhorn, as well as Cherubael, I believe is how you pronounce the name. And like I said before, this is the main character of the campaign. He's the reason why this whole narrative campaign is taking place. Gregor Eisenhorn is a huge 40k character from the Black Library series of novels that are dedicated to his character. He's a special character in Warhammer 40,000 as well. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with his background, the idea is supposed to be that Inquisitor Gregor Eisenhorn works for the Ordo Xenos. He takes on alien threats all across the Imperium. At the same time though, he is also haunted. If you look on the right hand side there, that is Cherubael. Cherubael is a demonkin that has a big part of the story. Pretty much just to give you an idea of how it works, Cherubael is a demonkin that is very fast, is a demon who is very fast with Gregor Eisenhorn and things he's able to do, and the two of them eventually partner up in the series as well, where Gregor Eisenhorn can kind of summon up Cherubael and use him whenever he needs to. Granted, doing so is kind of a act of heresy in the 40k universe, and so there is some narrative things that go with it, but at the same time there's a very accurate set of characters we have here. So you can see on the left hand side I got the limited edition special character model for Gregor Eisenhorn from the 8th edition of 40k. I also have a Cherubael. There is no more, I couldn't really find a demonkin model I could use for a really good price. They're all like 40 plus bucks. So Cherubael, which is over here on the right hand side, which is this guy here, he's a character from the Bones line of Reaper Minis, by Reaper Miniatures, what the name of the company is, and he's from their Bones series. And I'm not sure what the name of the character is. He's like a kung fu type of character, but I figured if there's a little bit of conversion work and some painting, I can make him look like a demonkin, and so that's what I'm using for this campaign. So these two, the two characters are making up the main story. They have a slew of abilities as well as rules, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in detail in another video about the rules they can do. Just to give you guys a little bit of an idea of what's going on, for Gregor Eisenhorn, I have given him a little bit of abilities where he can start issuing out orders, kind of like the same kind of orders as you use in the Kill Team series of games, so that way he can issue out orders to the various members of the team, and at the same time he can also summon Cherubael whenever he needs to for the battle as well. And that pretty much makes up this character for the campaign. Alright, up next we have two new characters that we're going to introduce for our campaign. On the left hand side, that character's name is Judge Harper. He is an Adeptus Arbites Enforcer. He's a Precinct 13 Sergeant. And right next to him on the right hand side is 11, who is a weird psyker test subject. And so these two are the two first cast members of members from the Underhive in Necromunda that Gregor Eisenhorn does recruit. The idea is supposed to be that after Gregor Eisenhorn survives the initial threat that he goes up against in our campaign, he's going to go to Precinct 13, which is the local Adeptus Arbites Enforcer chapter house, to get backup, only to find out that all the police officers are dead and the only one that's left is the judge, as well as a whole prison cell full of gangers that he's going to recruit in exchange for services rendered. They will, of course, receive imperial pardons from the Inquisition in order to help out. And so on the left hand side, that's Judge Harper. His character is just pretty simple. He's an Adeptus Arbites Enforcer. He's armed with a shock baton, bolt pistol, executioner shotgun. He does have some abilities. One of the interesting ones is that these characters give buffs to each other as well. For example, one of them I have is called Live Together, Die Together, and that rule works so long as Judge Harper is within 6 inches of 11, and vice versa. Both characters can reroll fail to hit and to wound rolls as well. So that kind of shows you some of the bonuses I'm throwing in there with combination of Kill Team as well as Warhammer 40,000. He also has a special role that I call Egos, and basically how it works is that at the beginning of each battle, Judge Harper has D3 Ego counters. At the beginning of each turn, the player can then discard one Ego counter. If done, the following bonuses are applied to 11. 11 has +1 to hit, +1 to wound, and can reroll runs, charges, and reroll failed psychic tests. So, you know, using a little bit of the mechanics from Stranger Things and using it for our version in Necromunda. Right next to him, of course, is 11. 11 is a weird psyker, which is the name that Necromundans give to the name of psykers who are born on the Underhive. They call them weird psykers, is what they basically call them. She's a test subject who has escaped and has come under the jurisdiction of Adeptus Arbites Enforcers for Precinct 13. She's armed with a combo weapon, which is a bolter and a grenade launcher, as well as stun gun with dum-dum bullets and a power knife. And her ability, she's got some special rules associated with her as well. Live Together, Die Together, which I talked about earlier, same thing with Egos. These two characters can use them as synonymous with one another. She also has another ability that I call Protective, and it says if an enemy model causes wound on either Judge Harper, other characters including Wheeler Mike, Lucas Sinner, Dustin Hinder, or Will the Buyer's Soul, 11 will become frenzied. She gains +1 attacks, +1 strength, and reroll failed charges against enemy models for the rest of the battle. So that kind of shows you what kind of ability she does have. She's also psychic as well, but the only ability she can use is Smites, because, you know, that's kind of like what they do in the TV series of Stranger Things. At the same time, just to show the fact that she's an uncontrolled psyker at this point, still kind of learning the ropes. So these are the next two characters in the posse that we're using for our It Came From the Sump campaign. Alright, up to our next two characters. The one on the left, his name is Wheeler Mike. He's named after Mike Wheeler from Stranger Things. On the right hand side is Lucas Sinner, which is the name of Lucas Sinclair from Stranger Things as well. Wheeler Mike on the left hand side, he's an Orlike party leader, while Lucas Sinner on the right hand side, he is a Delac gunfighter. So because of that, they're both characters in the group as well. Wheeler Mike, he is armed with a bolt pistol, heavy stubber, as well as blasting charges and a maul, whereas Lucas Sinner is armed with what is called the wrist rockets. The wrist rockets are twin combat pistols with bolt pistol as well as plasma pistol underneath. He also has twin digilasers as well as photon flash grenades, is what they end up having. Now, it's just like the last time, these characters do have special abilities. For example, Wheeler Mike has one called Never Gives Up, which means he can reroll any failed psychology tests. And yes, psychology tests will come back in this game, even though it's not in 40k or Kill Team or in what you call Necromunda for the most part. I am going to use it though for this series because they are dealing with alien entities that cause fear and terror, so we'll be using those special rules again, bringing those back. So he automatically passes all psychological tests when Mark does because he never gives up. He also has a ability called Inspirational, where basically all fighters in 6 inches of him can reroll any failed cool and leadership tests. He's also got the Fast Shot ability, which means he can move and shoot his heavy weapon without penalty. And his most special ability is called 11, with a exclamation point, and it says if any models cause a wound of 11, Wheeler Mike can double the number of shots against enemy models until the beginning of the next friendly turn, to represent the fact how he's overprotected of his friend 11. Right next to him is Lucas Sinner. As I said before, he is a Delac gunfighter. He has an ability called Camouflage Bandana, which enemies suffer a -1 to hit against him with all attacks. He's also got the gunfighter ability, which means he never suffers any negative penalties whatsoever, so long as he shoots with his wrist rockets. which is his custom pistols that he carries. So as long as he's using those, he never suffers any of the hit penalties, no matter if the enemy's in cover or obscured or whatever the case may be. He's also got the Monster Killer special ability, which is whenever Lucas Sinner overwatches against charging enemies, his normal ballistic skill is used to make attacks ignoring to hit penalties. So when he overwatches, instead of rolling to 6 to hit, he just uses normal ballistic skill. And then, of course, there's another ability called She's Awesome, which is a synergy special ability that's used in tandem with another character named Mad Max. And he says, whenever Lucas is within 6 inches of Mad Max, Lucas Sinner earns +1 to hit with all weapons as he tries to impress her. So there you go. There's another example of some of the rules, carrying over some of the narrative things you see in Stranger Things for these two characters. Alright, up next are 2 more characters for the posse. We have Dustin Hinder, he's on the left-hand side, as well as Will, the Buyer of Souls, on the right-hand side. Dustin Hinder, of course, is named after Dustin Henderson from Stranger Things, and Will, the Buyer of Souls, is named after Will Byers, of the same character from Stranger Things. So let's go and talk about these characters real fast. Starting off on the left-hand side, that's Dustin Hinder. He is a Goliath adventurer. He is armed with a grenade launcher, equipped with frag and crack grenades. He's got a stub gun, as well as the Sword of Bloodwooden Pass. Anybody knows anything about that game, that show, Stranger Things, know exactly what I'm talking about when I talk about Bloodwooden Pass. He is on the Will Byers, the Buyer of Souls, on the right-hand side. He's armed with the last cannon, a hand flamer, flail, as well as incendiary charges. For Dustin Hinder, his abilities, one is called Bull Charge, and then whenever Dustin Hinder charges into combat, he gains +1 strength, and knockback effects count as 2 inches instead of 1. Like I said, using some of those Necromunda rules. He also has Toothless, which is another ability of his. He gets +2 to his toughness when he's in close combat. And then, of course, we have his 2 special abilities, which are narrative-based. The first one is called This is the Rule of Law, and that is at the end of each friendly phase, Dustin Hinder makes a leadership check. If passed, all friendly models within 6 inches of him who are shaken or broken automatically pass their test to recover. On the right, he's also got another one called I Got You, with an exclamation point, and it says, every friendly model goes out of action within 6 inches of Dustin Hinder, roll a d6. On a 1 to 3 model, it still goes out of action, but on a roll of 4 to 6, Dustin Hinder moves within 6 inches of the victim and carries them to safety. The affected model is treated as if suffering from a flesh wound instead. So it just kind of goes back to the idea of how Dustin Henderson in the show Stranger Things always has your back, always helping out people, always helping out characters, same kind of thing as well. And so his character in this campaign is designed to get up close and personal, fight his opponents, but at the same time, if the damage in the fighting is getting thick, he can charge and save characters that go to action and help them out as well for the campaign. Now, Will, the Buyer of the Souls, on the right-hand side, he is a Condor Redemptionist. His abilities are counterattack. For each missed enemy attack in close combat, Will, the Buyer of Souls, gain an additional attack. We also have Zealot, and it says when charging into combat, Will, the Buyer of Souls, gains +1 attacks as well as +1 strength. Now, for his 2 narrative abilities, we have Survive the Upside Down, and it says because of surviving the horrors of the Upside Down, all Xenos attacking Will, the Buyer of Souls, suffer a -1 hit against him because he's used to surviving in that area. And then we have Witness the Upside Down, which is another special ability, and it says make a leadership check each time a friendly model within 6 inches of him gains a point of experience. If passed, the fighter gains 2 points of experience instead. So he's a good buffer to get people to gain experience points is what he ends up doing for them. And we'll talk a little bit more about experience points and some of the rules that came up for this campaign because, like I said, it's a combination of different games, and we'll talk about those rule sets here in a little bit. Alright, up next we have our next 2 characters. We have Nancy Sureshot, she is an Escher sniper. And on the right hand side we have Steve, King of Hawkins, and he's a Van Sar bodyguard. So these are the 2 characters that we have up next in the group. Nancy Sureshot, named after Nancy Wheeler, and of course Steve, named after the character Steve from Stranger Things as well. So when it comes to Nancy Sureshot, let's go and talk about her first. First of all, she's armed with a long rifle. She's equipped with a last pistol, stiletto knife, and frag grenades, while Steve, King Steve of Hawkins, he has a suppression laser, a spiked power maul, as well as a high star pattern energy shield. For Nancy Sureshot, her abilities are, this one's for Barbara. When shooting against Xenos targets, Nancy Sureshot can reroll fail to hit and to wound rolls. She also has the fast shot ability, which means she can shoot twice in the shooting phase. Our next 2 narrative rules are, so are you 2 a thing now? And that says whenever an enemy model causes a wound on Joe Nathan, which is a character that Nancy Sureshot's in love with, it says Nancy Sureshot's shooting attacks ignore all armor against enemy targets for the rest of the battle. And then the next one's called Yeah, But We Don't Love Steve, which is another narrative rule. And it says whenever Steve, King of Hawkins, suffers a wound from the enemy attack, Nancy Sureshot's shooting attack damage is doubled for the rest of the battle. So it's complicated between her, Steve, and Joe Nathan. Next up we have Steve, the King of Hawkins. His abilities are called Savant. He gets +1 hit with shooting attacks. He has another one called Mentor. And it says, whenever within 3 inches of a friendly model, they may reroll hits and wound rolls of 1. If within 3 inches of Dustin Hinder, specifically, Dustin Hinder rerolls all fail to wound and to hit rolls as well, to represent the fact that Steve, the King of Hawkins, and Dustin Hinder are kind of like a big brother, little brother type situation. We also have this narrative abilities called King of Hawkins. It says, if a fighter should go to have action and roll on the injury chart, they may reroll the result and choose which one they want. This is to represent Steve putting the word out to his Hawkins crew to better medical care. So, because he's the King of Hawkins. And then we also have next called Adventures in Babysitting, which is another narrative rule, and it says, if Steve, King of Hawkins, is within 3 inches of any friendly model that his hits and is wounded in the shooting or combat phase, Steve can intervene and take the hit instead. He can save the wound as with a normal armor save as always. And that's because as Advanced Star, he's got really good saves. He also has his High Star Pattern Energy Shield, is really good for saves as well. So the idea is supposed to be that one of the other characters is getting threatened about getting killed, he can intervene and take the hit instead because, kind of like a babysitter would have in case something bad should happen. So that's an example of what we have here for some of our narrative rules. So now we're going to talk about our last two characters and talk about what they can do. Alright, and finally we have our last two characters for the party in this one. We have Mad Max the Zoomer on the left hand side, who is a rat skin renegade. On the right hand side we have Joe Nathan, who is an Underhive bounty hunter. So we're talking about the last two members of our party. Mad Max the Zoomer, of course, is named after Mad Max, which is the name of the character from the season 2 of Stranger Things. She's armed with an auto gun, throwing knives, axe, as well as a fighting knife. Joe Nathan is named after Jonathan Byers from Stranger Things, and he's armed with a shotgun with slug and scatter rounds, a plasma pistol, as well as a chain sword. So let's go talk about their abilities real quick. On the left hand side for Mad Max, she has this ability called Zoomer, which means when running or charging, Mad Max adds plus d6 to her rolls. Never underestimate her is another one, and that one says that Mad Max can run and shoot in the same turn as well. Her two narrative abilities are called Big Brother Complex. When Mad Max fights against enemy characters, Max gains +1 strength and +1 damage with attacks in close combat. And then her other narrative ability is called Feelings Mutual. It says within 6 inches of Lucas Center, Mad Max gains +1 to wound against enemy targets and shooting in close combat, to represent the fact that Mad Max and Lucas Center have a thing going on. And then next, finally, we have Joe Nathan. Joe Nathan's abilities are called Sprint. He can run and charge in the same turn. He has also got Poor Shot or Hip Shooter, to represent the fact that Jonathan couldn't really shoot either. And it says he can run and shoot in the same turn with a -1 hit penalty. The next narrative rules is called Got It Bad. Whenever Joe Nathan is in the 6 inches of Nancy's Sureshot, he can shoot twice in the shooting phase. And finally, we have the rule Big Brother, which is the last narrative rule, which says that whenever Joe Nathan is in the 6 inches of Roll the Buyer's Souls, he can pile an attack twice in the combat phase, to represent that he's trying to protect his little brother. And that's going to do it for these last two characters of our party. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, and that's going to do it for this video. So as you can see here, we have all members of our cast for Season 2 of It Came From the Sump. We did a lot of narrative rules based on this one, did a lot of game mechanics and things of that nature, did a lot of interesting things with the characters. We're super excited about rolling out this series for you guys so that way you can see exactly our very first narrative campaign and see how it kind of goes. If you guys are wondering, I am going to put the rosters with the character profiles up on my Blogger account, so if you guys have it, you can look at the link in the description below. I have a link to the Blogger. It's called It Came From the Sump Season 2. I'll have PDFs put on my blog so that way you guys can download the character rosters and the character sheets, as well as the rules for these characters as well, and you can use them in your own version of It Came From the Sump if you feel so inclined. I also have some rules up there as well where it talks a little bit about psychology rules, as well as some of the things like experience and command points, and we'll talk about those game mechanics on another video later on. So that's going to do it for this one, you guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Google+, as well as Blogger.com, especially Blogger.com if you want to get the rule sets for this upcoming campaign. That's going to do it for this one, you guys. We will catch you guys in the next one. You guys stay classy. Peace out, you guys. Love ya.